They hear from the live
Okay,
stream.
I speak very loudly usually, so even more loudly than that probably. Okay, what should I say? Test, test, test. Do you hear me? This is how it will be later on. Blah blah blah. Should it is fine. Yeah. Okay. Start. Okay, hello guys. My name. Oh, usually I don't get anything in the terms of time. My name is Miha. I'm a debate teacher. I also teach philosophy and sociology, but mostly now, last 3 years, I'm dealing with debate, public speaking, argumentation. I'm coaching a debate club in Slovenia. I'm coaching Slovenian national team, and I'm like teaching all around the world, like judging tournaments, educating new teachers, new judges, or even debaters. Last week I was in Italy. During the summer I was in Indonesia for the World Schools Debate Competition in Bali. It was nice and hot. Today I'm here to deliver a workshop on argumentation, engagement, comparative analysis, and so on. Before we start, in the end, I'll also give you my email, so you will be always able to contact me if you will have any questions regarding the debate, or I don't know, if you will be facing some problems while you will be working in your debate clubs, or if you will want to join any international debate competitions and you won't know how, when, why, you always can contact me through my email. You can also add me on Facebook if you're using it. I answer questions on Facebook a bit faster, but I always have a condition. I just confirm, this is my condition for all the students that I'm working with, I just confirm people on Facebook as friends if they promise that they will like the pictures of my cat. So this is here is, I don't know, 15 people, at least 8 new likes I'm expecting today. Okay. This is it. Now, before we start, I want to ask you, like, do you already know anything about the debate? I know at least few people were already engaged in the debate program before. Are you beginners or so on? I want to know what are your experiences. So I see, do we go directly into how to compare, clash things, how to rebut in a way that you engage with other team, or do we need to start also with some basic things on argumentation and so on? So my first question, raise your hands, the ones who, I don't know, already know a lot about the format, about the basic arguments and so on. Okay, what about the others? Is here anybody who doesn't know WSDC debate format? Okay, so WSDC debate format. Okay, you don't know it at all, but you will be a debater. Like you decided to join a debate club or not. Yeah, for example, you.
I don't know yet.
Yeah, so you're just here and you will see what happens. Fair enough. Okay, so we will try to do something in between, right? I wanted also for the people who are here for the first time that you get something out of it, but I also want for the people who already know the format and so on to gain something from the workshop. So we'll try to do it like, I don't know, intermediate with some explanation of basic things and some more advanced things. If you have questions, ask me, but keep in mind that the things that we will do today, you can always later on in your debate clubs ask your teachers, your students, your friends to help you explain a few things. Okay, cool. For the ones who are here for the first time, what is debate? Generally, you have a topic, you have somebody who is for, you have somebody who is against it, and you need to convince the other team. No, not actually the other team, you need to convince the judge that your position is the correct one. You need to convince the judge that they vote for you at the end of the debate, right? You need to use all the knowledge about argumentation, public speaking, persuasion, everything you have, you need to use according to the, within the rules, within the things that your debate format allows you. Within this, you need to do whatever you want in order to convince the judges, right? Now, I won't go through the rules because A, this is boring, B, you can read on the internet, and you just need to learn them and start using them, right? So we will go more into how to convince judges, not with the public speaking part, but with argumentation, how to engage with other teams' arguments and how to present your own arguments, okay? How we are going to do it, I'm going to lecture for around an hour, okay? I'll try to ask you questions in between, so it will be kind of an interactive session. So we hope to get some instructions how to build arguments and engage with other people from this lesson. And then we'll divide into more groups, and with other trainers who are here, we'll do exercises, right? And you will try to use knowledge that you gain here, right? We'll divide you according to your past experiences. So we will have advanced group doing more advanced things in exercises individually, and then the people who are new, you will do basic things, argument building, and so on. Okay, any questions at this point? Any concerns, comments, critiques? No, that's good. Did anybody already like it? Okay, you didn't. You don't have self-control. Okay. What is debate? Sometimes people think the debate is about like just prepare your speech, prepare a few arguments, and try to say why your side of the motion is correct. I think this is not debate. Debate is basically always about comparison between two sides. In debate, you need to compare. When you have a motion, this house should introduce school uniforms, and you are on the proposition, so you are for the motion, you want these school uniforms to happen, it is not enough just to present a speech like an essay, like, oh, these are the reasons why I think that school uniforms are a good thing. No, debate is always a comparative analysis between two sides. All the motions, topics in the debate are set in a way that you have two sides. And in the end, the judge will compare which side of the debate was better, which side did convince him or her, right? So it's always a comparative analysis. Always you will have some arguments and the other side will have some arguments. Always some of the arguments on this side will be true, and also some of the arguments on the other side will be true. It will never happen that everything that opposition will say will be stupid and wrong. If this will happen, then you need to hope the debate will be over as soon as possible, because you are in a really bad debate. If everything they said is stupid and wrong, then you are really in a bad debate, right? Usually they will have something amazing to say. You will have something amazing to say, something backed up with examples, logic, explanations. And in the end, judge will need to decide which one is better. So even when you're constructing arguments, when you're rebuttaling arguments, when you're making a summary in the end, it is always about comparative analysis. Why your points were more important, more explained in a more clear way, backed up with better examples and so on. So it's always about comparison. Because you know how judges in the end decided who wins the debate? They do award speaker points, that's true. They do evaluate your own arguments. How did you develop them? How did you back up them? What was your style like and so on. They do that. But this is never the way they decide. The way the judges decide who wins the debate is always they are looking for reasons why they can award you a win. Which arguments did you win? Yeah? Why were you better? Which points of the motion did you win? Which clashes did you win? On which issues, topics did you convince them? And this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do from the beginning of the debate. You need to find a way how you will comparatively convince, judge the audience that your side of the motion is correct. And this is how today we'll try to approach this workshop. We will talk how to do a comparative analysis. We'll talk how to compare things, how to clash things in 3 important levels of the debate. Firstly is when you're building your constructive arguments. Constructive. You have constructive material, you need to come up with a case in each debate, you need to come up with the argumentation, and always this argumentation, your constructive material, should always already be made in a way that you will be able to compare this material, to clash this material with the other side. Then second thing, which is important in debate and need to be done in a comparative way, is rebuttal. You need to be aware that rebuttal, when you're responding to what the other thing said, the other side said, when you're trying to say that what they said was not okay, rebuttal is not just saying that they were wrong. Rebuttal is saying why your side is more important, more relevant, better. Not just that they are wrong and incorrect, but even if they are right, why your side is still better, more important, more impactful, and so on. Because it's a comparison. So it will be also about rebuttal. And then the last thing, we'll go directly into comparative analysis, how to compare different arguments, how to compare their impacts. Because this is what you need to do in your reply speeches, in the last speeches of the debate. Because the last speeches in the debate are not so much about building your constructive arguments anymore, are not so much about rebuttal anymore, but much, much more about summarizing it, comparing material, and telling judge why your side was better. So in the end, we'll also speak about comparative analysis. Very, very directly, how to comparison, how to compare things that you have in your debate. Okay, cool. Any questions so far? Then let's go directly into the topic. How does an argument look like? The more experienced debaters here. What is the structure of the argument? What you need to have in each argument, for example?
Well, you've got a statement that you're trying to prove.
What?
You've got a statement that you're trying to prove.
Your statement and you're trying to prove.
Then you
Okay.
have an explanation to back it up.
Explanation to back it up.
You have some evidence, some illustrative points.
Okay, very good. Before you start with your argumentation, right? You need to before you start building arguments, you need to come up with an idea what will be the point of this argument. And you need to reveal your point already at the beginning of your argument. Let's have a very easy example so the beginners will be able to kick in. This house believes that homework should be obligatory. Very simple motion, right? Okay, why do you think that, what is an argument for proposition? Give me some ideas. Why homework should be obligatory, mandatory? Yeah.
Well, it helps the brain develop and...
Why do we want brains to be developed? Why do we teachers want that?
So that you get better grades and learn how to do harder tasks.
Okay, I think that the one with the better grades was really cool. Why? Because each argument at the beginning needs to have a statement, a very clear answer to the question, what are you stating? What is the point of your argument? What is the outcome of your argument? What is the conclusion of your argument? Never reveal your conclusion in the end of your argument. Always start with your conclusion. Why? Because sometimes what the public speakers are doing, they give you one example, another example, third example, and then in the end they say, with all these examples, we can conclude to something, right? What can happen in this structure? Maybe after your first and second example, I, as a judge, will come to a different conclusion. And then I will have 2 different conclusions. Which one will I prefer in the end? Mine or yours? Mine, of course, right? I'll be, oh my God, these stupid debaters, they made the wrong conclusion, they don't even understand their own thoughts, of course, I have the correct conclusion, and so on. And I won't accept your conclusion. But if you start with what is the point, and then use all the examples to back up this point, I will accept your conclusion much, much earlier. Even if you don't explain these examples well enough, I will always have better chances to understand it. Why? Because I will know what you're trying to show me. So always explain, tell me, what is your point at the beginning? What is your point? What is the point of the argument? What is your conclusion? Statement. Your colleague said that people will have better grades. Okay, we know what's the point, better grades. Quick test. This is what university debaters are constantly doing. Our second argument will be the economic analysis of the situation. Is this a good statement? For example, you, is this a good statement?
Yes, because it means that you will be able to get a better job and get your...
But wait, this is what if it won't be about better job? What if it will be about we need to lose some jobs in order to gain growth? You see why this is a bad statement? Because it doesn't reveal anything. It can be about jobs, it can be about growth, it can be about crisis, it can be about investment. I have no idea. Debaters say, I will do an economic analysis. I'm like, it can be whatever. Tell me, I will tell you about how we'll get better jobs with that. Tell me concretely what will the argument be about. Reveal the conclusion at the beginning. Don't say, let me start with this economic theory, blah, 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 and then 2 minutes later, and this is how we get to better jobs. No, tell me, dude, we will have better jobs in the end of this argument. Let me explain you why. And then I exactly know, even if I don't understand everything what you will say, because you will mess up something probably, right? When you will be explaining. But even if I don't understand everything, right? During your speech, I will know what you're talking about because I know where we're going. We're going to these jobs, right? So always reveal the point at the beginning. Second thing, your colleague already said, if we firstly explain what are we claiming, secondly, we need to explain why the hell do we agree with our statement. Why is our statement a correct statement? Why is our statement true? Why do we think that people will have better grades if the homeworks will be obligatory? We need to explain the statement. Explanation. Okay, quickly, why will people have better grades if the homeworks will be obligatory? Why? Somebody else, maybe you?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, because if you do the homework, you get to know the things better. Concretely, you get to know the topics better.
Okay, so you know the topics better, know the topics. Yes. What else? Any other idea?
You get crucial repetition after the lesson.
Repetition. Repetitio est mater studiorum. This is the only thing I know to say in Latin. Repetition. What else? Okay, 2 explanations. Cool. Now you say, dear judge, let me explain you why people will have better grades. I have 2 reasons. Firstly, they will repeat things at home because repetitio est mater studiorum. And secondly, they will know the topic better. And this is why we believe that in the end, they will have better grades and better knowledge. Great. You explain me, very short way, but you explain me why your statement is true. Now, in the third point, you need to give me something from real life, right? You need to give me a real life example or something. Because up until now, I can say, I disagree with you. This is just some stupid theory supported with a Latin quote nobody understands, right? So you need to give me something from the real life. I call this illustration. You need to give me illustration of your point. It can be a statistics, it can be an example, it can be a story, it can be a scientific research, whatever. If the only thing you have is personal story, then have a personal story. But try to avoid personal stories, right? I had a student, the first grade, this year actually, in my school. We had a first session and she made exactly this argument. I'm not repeating after her. And her illustration was, last year my boyfriend in primary school, he didn't do homework and he was really bad. Right? Right now, in this first 2 weeks, he's doing everything and he understands everything much better, right? My first comment was, wow, you are in the first grade and you already have a boyfriend for 1 year, nice. But this was a nice example, but very subjective. I don't care what happened to your grandmother when she went to doctor, she met her friend and something went wrong, right? I don't care about personal stories. It's much more credible, convincing if you have something from scientific researches and so on. We could have a whole workshop just on how to make good examples, how to come up with good researches, of course. But try to find, general idea would be, try to find something credible, objective, which can be applied to the situation. I can give an example, research done in USA in 2001, the group of the students in the class who were doing their homework constantly, in the end they had better grades and better knowledge than the other part of the classroom. This is very, very nice support, evidence, proof, illustration of our explanation. Do you agree? Yeah. So they had better knowledge. Of course, this argument has a lot of problems, which you can rebut, but this is how we are building it. Argument is still not done yet, right? Because you know what, you can, if this is the whole argument, right? Then somebody who disagrees can always come to you and they can say, we agree with everything you said. We will have great. Why? Yes, because we will know the topic. Great example from USA, we agree. We agree with everything you said, you're correct, but we think this is totally irrelevant, we could not care less. We agree that we will have better grades, but it's not important to us, right? And then you lose the whole argument. You don't have anything anymore after that, right? To avoid that, you also need a fourth part. You also need to answer the question why the argument is relevant or important. Why my argument is relevant or important. I call it importance of the argument. Why is it important? Why is it relevant? Why the hell am I talking about this to you right now? Why am I spending your time explaining this? Because this is what the judges will ask, right? You will be explaining them something for 5 minutes, and they will be, okay, now tell me, why are you talking about this? Tell me, why is it important? You need to give them a sufficient answer. Why is it important to have good grades? Give me one answer. You, yes, sir, you.
Well, grades reflect how well you learned in school, and if you have high grades, you learn a lot, and that's the entire point of school, to learn.
But they can say, but we don't care about the point of school. We don't need no education. Okay.
Great support that you're in their future careers.
Yes, this is better jobs and so on. Like, we are not sure how this link between better education and better jobs is still correct in the late capitalism. But you do, you can say that if you have good grades, you have better education, better job opportunities. Okay, jobs. And now this is how you make the whole argument, right? This is what is the structure of the argument. What am I saying? Reveal your conclusion. Why am I saying that? Give me all the answers to the question, why do I believe in that? Then support it with something from real life, and in the end tell me why it is important, why it is relevant that we are talking about this in debate, how it is connected to the debate topic, okay? I say to my students, because they find it funny, that arguments need to be sexy plus important. Why? Because they need to have statement, they need to have explanation, they need to have illustration. From this you get sexy, and then you have also the important part, right? So this is like for the beginners. In the end, you won't do the arguments in that way anymore. In the end, you will be just, I need to, what is the point? I will explain, But in the beginning, when you're really trying to like structure your thought, try to keep that in mind, right? When my students are doing their arguments, I'm always, did you make it sexy? Did you make it important? If not, go make it sexy, go make it important, and then present it to me, right? This is how you can like remind yourself when you're making an argument. Statement, explanation, illustration, importance. This is how you build an argument, okay? Any questions here? Cool. Now, important thing in the debate is that you know what arguments to build. When you're building arguments, you need to be sure that arguments will allow good debate. That arguments won't be there just because you want them, just because you haven't, you know, sometimes debaters are, we have this good example and we will make this argument. And then I say to my debaters, but this argument is bad. They think, yes, but we really want to use this example because it's so good. You don't do it in that way. You never make argument just because you know something about the topic. You never make arguments just because you have one of the parts really nicely covered. You make an argument because you think that this can make you win the debate. You make an argument because you think that this is covering one of the important points in the debate. Now, how to decide, how to see if this is actually covering the important point of the debate? Let's take a look. This would be a very, very, very short session, a session part in the session about motion analysis. how to decide which arguments to use, how to decide for the arguments which will actually be connected to the topic and will allow engagement later in the debate, will allow clashes in the debate. Let's take a motion. I did that with my beginners last week. This house believes that we should ban Facebook accounts of people who uses hate speech on social media. Okay, this is our motion, right? This house believes that we should ban Facebook accounts of people who are using, let's put it that way, of people who are using hate speech on the social media. Okay? How do you know which arguments to make? How to make an argument that will actually clash with something. Don't just go and say random things that are connected to the topic. Do something we call motion analysis before it. And in the shortest possible way, how to analyze the motion, the first part is, firstly ask yourself the question, what are the most important words from the topic? Which are the words from the topic that we need to discuss in this debate? Tell me, which are the words? I will cross them. What is important is in this motion?
Hate speech.
What? Hate speech. So it's something we will need to say something about hate speech. We will need one argument or something will need to be connected with the hate speech. That's really good. What else? What? Ban. Ban Facebook accounts. Okay, very good. What else?
Social media.
Yes, because it's not hate speech wherever. It's hate speech specifically on social media. Okay, anything else? No, that's it. Huh? Anything else? Oh yeah, when she said ban, I said ban what? Facebook accounts, yes. So we have three things in this motion that we will need to address with our arguments. We will need to address the fact that we are having hate speech. We'll need to address that we're talking about social media, and we'll need to address that we are talking about the ban, right? Now, first rule, how to make an argument that will allow engagement and debate is make it motion specific. Always connect your argument specifically to the motion. Debaters on this motion, what they usually do is, they make an argument about hate speech and they say hate speech is bad. They make an argument, hate speech is harmful. What is wrong with such argument? Or how could we make the argument better?
Well, we have to explain why is it.
Let's say that we explain that hate speech is bad. Let's say that we have a good explanation. Why is this argument still not the perfect possible argument?
There are other places on social media that I have to put.
So what should be the argument about?
Hate speech on social media.
You see the difference. You're not saying you want to make a general argument about hate speech has bad consequences. Because probably everybody will agree. You won't have somebody on the other side saying, no, we believe that hate speech is perfect thing. Thank God we have it. Probably nobody will say that. So no clash will happen. No engagement will happen. Because the others will need to agree with you. Make arguments specific to the motion. Say, we will discuss negative consequences of hate speech on social media. Right? So this is what I mean when I say make it motion specific. In your statement, when you're revealing the point, you already should reveal me how this will be connected to the motion as such. Because what will happen now for the more experienced one, maybe, if you would have the statement bad consequences of hate speech in general, the opposition would probably say yes, but in social media is not so bad. Then you would need to come back and say, no, but we think it is also problematic on social media. And then the next speaker would be back, go back, yes, but you didn't explain us how it is bad on the social media. Then your third speaker will say, now let me tell you why it is problematic on social media. So already in this, then the judges say, nice point, but you developed it later in the debate. Develop it from the beginning. Find out what will be clashing in the debate, make it specific to the motion. right? Don't wait for the whole debate where you get all the challenges about social media and so on. Make it specific to the motion. We're talking about, okay. So the first thing that you need to be careful in motion analysis is when you cross or whatever, underline most important words, then you decide that you make it motion specific. It needs to be connected with everything, okay? Cool. Motion specific would be the first rule. I can write this down. Second rule is think about what will be the clashes in this debate later on. So first rule, make it motion specific. Okay, for the more experienced one, because it's a very, very complicated topic. I had a debate with my seniors also last week that this house would actively support the opposition movements in Venezuela, so that we would like fund them or support, give some military thing is there just to help them to fight the regime, right? Debaters, they had nice arguments about how we need to do everything in order to fight for democracy. The regime there is not democratic, that is why we need to support opposition in order to overthrow it. But the majority of the argument was, the statement was, we need to support democratic regimes, right? And then they made a whole argument about how we need to support democratic regimes, and then in the last 2 points, the last 10 seconds of the argument, it was, and in Venezuela, there is not a really democratic one, so this is why we also support this one. Of course, you need to have both points, general and specific one, but the argument itself should be directly about the motion. We need to support democratic changes in Venezuela. And then you say, generally, why democratic changes? B, Venezuela is not democratic country at the moment, which could be debatable. And C, why we need to do it, okay? So the point of the argument should be always about the motion specific. Of course, also add the general things, but statement, the thing you want to prove, need to be motion specific. Second rule, when you're deciding which arguments to have, try to anticipate what will be the clash of the debate. What will be the clash of the debate? Okay. What do you think will be the first thing that opposition will say when you will want to ban hate speech because bad things are happening?
Well,
what?
Facebook. Why would they say just why on Facebook? Why on?
Okay, but this is a technical remark. There is one thing that all the opposition, they will say that for sure. But there is one more thing all the students always say.
Does it affect everyone, and how do we?
Okay, efficiency. But there is one more thing. What will they principally say?
The freedom of speech.
Yes, they always will say freedom of speech. So this will be one free speech. This will be one clash in this debate. So you also need to say something about this clash in the beginning. Don't wait for them to say, oh, we disagree, we have a clash of freedom of speech versus controlling the speech. Don't wait for them. Prepare your constructive in a way that you cover all the points. What would you say about freedom of speech?
That it doesn't necessarily guarantee that what you say doesn't have any repercussions.
Okay, but so what?
Well,
Make the whole argument. I agree with you. I'll say so what?
It's perfectly justified to ban somebody's account.
See, this is the statement. What you said before was part of an explanation. If you're free, it also can blah, blah, blah. The statement it is not necessarily justified to say everything you can. You see the difference? This is the point. Okay, any other idea?
I think freedom of speech doesn't necessarily have to apply to Facebook.
Oh, okay. We cannot apply freedom of speech on Facebook. Any other idea what argument we can make?
Free speech is not that you can insult or spread hate freely. That doesn't
Okay.
this.
Maybe to help you, when you're banning something, who is banning?
Facebook admin.
Yeah, but is this motion about Facebook company should ban?
The house.
Okay, but what is the house here? Who? Yeah, but who will impose this action? Always when you have a ban motion, who is doing that?
The government.
The government, the state is doing that. So you will have state intervention over free speech. So what the arguments need, what your argument need to prove? What should be the statement?
The argument needs to prove that the government can go over their own constitution and claim.
I wouldn't go so far on constitution, but over what?
Free speech.
We believe that government sometimes, in special occasion, has the duty and the legitimacy to limit your free speech. What will opposition say back to you? Not in this case. What will you say back? Also in this case, right? So let's go back to our argument. How should the argument look like to prevent this response already? In this case, on Facebook, talking about hate speech on Facebook, the government has a duty to prevent bad consequences. So don't say, we believe the government can sometimes limit hate speech. Very general, we don't know what exactly it is. Have a concrete argument. Government has a duty to limit negative consequences of free speech on social media. Make an argument directly about the thing that you will need to prove by the end of the debate. Sometimes debaters make an argument, for example, what my kids did when we did that. They said free speech is not an absolute right. I agree. Opposition also agreed. So this is not an argument that will make them win the debate. Because the opposition said, we agree, but in this case, we should let them be totally free when they're speaking. So the statement, the free speech is not an absolute right, is not winning the debate. The statement, in the case of hate speech and negative consequences of hate speech on social media, the state has to intervene. This is the statement that is winning the debate. So prepare this statement at the beginning of the debate. Anticipate what is the clash that will happen, and then make a statement or argument directly on this clash. Okay? You had a question.
No, I was just wondering, why does it have to be the government?
What?
Why does it have to be the government?
Who else could it be?
Well, it's Facebook's software.
It's Facebook's.
Okay, if it would be Facebook, then the motion would be this House believes that Facebook should ban accounts. When you have a ban motion, you are imposing the law on Facebook, right? This means that the state would require from Facebook that they should do something. This is also where the free speech argument will come in the story, right? Because the argument about free speech won't be just about people could say whatever they want. It will also be about Facebook. It is Facebook, they could allow whatever they want, right? So that is why this will also be relevant. Yeah.
If you're in the opposition,
Yes.
the government thinks that it's going to be the Facebook banning, what's the appropriate response?
I would say you do a definitional challenge. You say that this is not the right interpretation of the motion. Then you give your own arguments, but then you run even if case. But even if we take into the consideration what they are saying, these are our responses, right? And I think that in this case, even if it will be messed up, that some of the general principle arguments will still apply. The only difference in the end will be like who is the subject, who is imposing the law, and maybe a bit different debate on the level of free speech, right? Okay, so what we did by now is, for the beginners, here was the general structure of the argument. For a bit of advanced people, when you are making arguments, firstly do a motion analysis and do two things. Decide what is this debate about, right? Which things are important in the topic, and always make all of your arguments motion specific. They need to be connected directly to the things that are happening in the motion. I give an example from Bali, Indonesia. We had a topic that NATO enhanced forces in Russia does more harm than good. So that in Baltic does more harm than good. So the fact that we have some NATO forces now in Baltic area, that this is making more harm than good, right? The opposition had the argument that we need some military defense because Russia is doing something bad, right? And they had a great argument on how we need military defense. What my kids said, and they totally won the argument in the end, was even if we agree, you didn't tell us why we need this specific operation. Even if we agree with you that some kind of military presence there is necessary, We are talking about NATO enhanced forward presence, which is a specific operation set by NATO. We want you to debate exactly the thing proposed by the motion, not generally about military presence. You see, make it motion specific, the first rule. Second rule for advanced people, think about what will be the clash and make arguments directly about the clash. If you see that there will be debate about free speech, don't make general argument free speech is an absolute right, is not an absolute right, but make an argument in the case of the harms of the free speech, hate speech, which is free speech in some way, on social media. We think that the state has a right and a duty to intervene and limit the free speech. Here it is why. So make a statement, which is already the conclusion when you want to come in the end, which will answer the point, how will you win this debate? Any questions? Okay. Then we're still at the constructive material that we're making, right? Then let's talk about how to put different arguments together, right? And prepare good clash for the debate. How to construct a case, how to build different arguments in a way that you will clash, in a way that you will allow later engagement in the debate, in a way that other people will be able to respond to it, not just claim something that they prepared and then you have two separate debates, two separate sides just claiming something. Okay, how to make a case in a way that you allow clash. First, and the most important rule, when you get a motion, try to think about what is an issue behind this motion. What is the problem that this motion is trying to address? Okay? This will be the first rule of making the case in order to make it, to prepare the comparative analysis and engagement. What is the issue, the main problem behind the motion? I'll give another motion. The motion is, this House believes that we should make adult children legally responsible for taking care of their parents in their old age. For taking care of their parents in their old age. Blah, blah, blah. Give me argument for proposition. Anybody? Why would we accept that? Anybody?
Well, I just have the word. I'm legally responsible.
But, yeah, okay, but okay. Of course, I agree. We will need to talk about legally. So what is what? So legally responsible in their old age, children, their adult. Okay. But what could be an argument? Why would we do that?
Because a lot of children are.
What?
Because a lot of children are not doing that.
Okay. Anything else?
Parents need the help of
Why?
their children because they can, because not all of them can take care of themselves.
So what? Why is this an issue?
Because we have a lot of elderly people who are suffering because they don't have access to care.
So you have this debate in Finland, for example, or in Europe, and you would start with old people are suffering, ladies and gentlemen. Would this be the issue that you would propose? Anything else? Of course, everything can go in debate. Everything flies because it's comparative analysis. Maybe it will be better than the others. Let's go even more deeper.
Otherwise, it's left on government.
Ah, what does it mean? Let's explore this. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, they need caretakers. And so it's like financially straining and.
Okay.
So,
But why would we now why do you think, what would be the reason that we would now make children legally responsible to financially help them empowered? Why? What is the issue behind this? Why are they suffering?
Because they don't have the financial aid and the other aid from their kids.
Okay, what would be the other options of financial aid?
Just taking care of them. I'm doing house.
Yes, but if children are not doing that, who is doing that or could be doing that?
Government and charities.
How the government and charities are doing that? We have a system for that.
Government will be doing it with tax money.
Okay, tax money, but we have a name for that, a mechanism. Who is taking care for you when you're not getting your salary anymore? You get what? Social transfers and pensions. So apparently, this motion is assuming that there is an issue with the system of government taking care of old people in the moment, because they are not taken care of. Apparently, the motion assumed that there is some kind of a problem with pension system and social transfers, and that is why they are suffering. And because all the children are not taking care of them, that is why we will make them legally responsible, because the state is not doing their job with the pension system and so on. So you see how you get totally different debate if you start with, oh my God, children are not taking care of their parents. Then you have a debate, poor parents, they did everything for their child, and the bastard is now not taking care, okay? If you have a debate about, dear ladies and gentlemen, the pension system in our country is not working. We have too much people in their old age who cannot go to work anymore, or are not even allowed to work anymore, right? Because they're too old and because we don't have enough jobs, and they do not have enough money. This is why we need to get an alternative way how we will take care of them as a society. The way we propose is that we make their children legally responsible. Why? Then you can have all the arguments. These parents helped their children in the past, blah, blah, blah. But you do understand how it is different if you come up with the main issue which is behind the motion, right? Do you understand that? So always think about what is the issue of the debate. What is the problem? Why are we having this debate? Don't just go with arguments, poor parents are suffering, we should help them to better children. Right? Think about the bigger issues behind. Let's talk about this motion, Russia. Yeah, Russia. It's always Russia. That we have this NATO forces, military forces in the Baltic borders, right? What usually on the first, in the first attempt, what debaters usually say? Debaters usually say, oh my God, we need that because Russia will attack. But is this really behind this motion? Do you really think that people who set this motion are now somewhere secretly afraid that Russia will now invade the Baltic? Not necessarily, right? I mean, partially maybe, it depends on the personal views, but this is not necessarily the main issue behind. If you go deeper, if you go researching, you will see that the main issue is what? The struggle for power between Russia and the West. The struggle for the global hegemony, right? Provocations on the borders and so on. So the basic issue, problem of this motion is not necessarily Russia is a threat, they are attacking. This will be a very debate when it will be, oh, will Russia attack or won't attack? Do we need them there? It's a debate, but you have no engagement. You have one argument on each side. But if you come up with the real issue, which is the issue of struggling for global power, struggling for achieving the global hegemony, struggle for achieving who will be the global superpower, then you have lots of argument. How does this work? Why didn't we use diplomacy? Why should we go military? You have everything, right? So you see how just if you think about what is the issue or problem behind the motion can totally change your perspective on which arguments you will make. So when you're preparing a case, before you decide for arguments, always think what is behind the, what is the issue behind the debate, behind the motion. The second thing you can always do in order to prepare the debate for clash, to prepare the debate for engagement is, especially for policy debate. I mean, with policy, I mean, you know, the policy debate, policy motions are the motions when you're proposing a change, when you're proposing a new law, when you're proposing something different. If I say motion, Facebook is doing more harm than good, is this a policy motion, motion of change? No.
No.
If I say we should introduce death penalty, is this a motion of change? Yes. Always when you have a motion of change, in order to structure the debate in a way that you will be able to engage on different levels, do it in that way. What is the first thing you need to prove if you want to propose a change? What?
That there is a problem.
That there is a problem. If there is no problem, I won't listen to your advice. If I don't have any problem, if I'm living in a perfect world, why the hell would I listen for your proposal to change something, right? I will listen to your proposal for change, for new law, for a different world, only in the situation if you tell me that something is wrong with the current situation here and now. So always with such motions, start with the problem from which you can develop necessity for the action. First level of all policy motions. Why it is necessary to do something. Why there is an urgency to act. Describing the problem, you explain necessity for the action. Necessity for the action for that penalty motion would be what? Why do we need that penalty? Because
To get rid of the terrorists and terror attacks that have been able to
hardcore, okay. But this is already what it will achieve. What is the problem? You back?
Well, great crime.
High crime. High crime, easy. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we have high crime. We don't know what to do, how to deal with it. That's why we need to do something. People are dying. People are living in fear. High crime is going. Crime rates are going up. We need to do something, right? Necessity for the action. After you establish necessity for the action, what you need to tell me?
Why now?
Okay, I would say these are not the details how to develop argument, but this go here. Why you need to act really now fastly? Everything is going down. But after you describe what is the problem, what are the consequences of the problem, what is the cause of the problem, why should we care? After you describe all this from which you derive, which you come to the necessity for the action, then you need to describe what? What? Before you describe what is your solution, you need to tell me where you're trying to come. What is your goal? What is the ideal situation that you are going into? In name of what you are doing this change? You need to describe your goal or your values. In name of what I am doing that? In name of democracy, in name of safety, in name of I don't know what, you need to somehow justify your approach. You need to give the legitimacy to your approach. So justification, legitimacy. Justification, legitimacy. Now you know what you need to solve. Now you know where you want to come. What is the last thing you need to say?
Solution.
How will you get there, right? Solution, mechanism, however you want to call it. About the solution, you need to explain what. You need to explain it. It will work. It will be efficient. It will actually help the situation. So the last level, efficiency. So second thing, when you are talking about the motion, after you realize what is the main issue or problem, always try to, especially when you're having policy motion, try to think of why is there a necessity for the action? Why am I justified doing that? And can I prove that it is efficient that I'm efficient in solving the problem, achieving the goal, and so on. Okay? This is, to my students, I usually draw this as a triangle. I draw this as a triangle. I do it like that, right? You have you have necessity at the beginning, you have justification, and you have efficiency here, right? And if you want to now really do a comparative debate, you need to prove all the three levels. If you prove me that penalty, right, is really efficient if you want to get rid of crime, and if you prove me that safety, getting rid of the crime, is the most important value, did you already win the debate? Why not?
Because you didn't explain.
Yeah, of course, it's written on the board. But why do you think you didn't win the debate? You prove me that the safety is the most important value, and the death penalty will achieve safetyness. Why didn't you win?
Why do we need
Yes, I would be okay. I agree with you, but I have no problem. Why would I need more safety and this great solution if we have no problem here? So you need to prove me that there is a necessity for action. What if you prove me that there is necessity for action, and you prove me that we have a lot of crime, and you prove me that death penalty is really, really efficient in getting rid of the crime? Did you win the debate? You prove me that this is the problem, we need to do something because we have crime, and you prove me that that penalty will decrease crime rate, did you win the debate?
No.
No, why not?
Because what do you achieve?
You achieve the situation with no crime.
What,
The people who are demonstrating, yes.
Why are we right in doing this?
Okay. You had,
You don't know why that specific solution is like right.
but let's say that you prove that that penalty is the most efficient solution to solving this problem. Why didn't you win the debate? I mean, you could win if the other team is worse, but ideally.
Why we need to solve it.
What? Why we need to solve it? Okay, but you can, when you're describing the problem, like everybody will probably agree that crime is bad. We kind of need to solve it, right? What are people who are demonstrating against that penalty in USA? What do they say? What do they have written in their posters? Do they say, we don't have crime problem? No. Do they say, that penalty is not efficient, that penalty is not efficient? Do they say that? No, what they say?
It's morally wrong.
Yes, they say, yes, we agree, crime is bad, somebody needs to do something. They say, we agree, that penalty would solve everything, but we think it's morally wrong, it's not justified, that something is more important than safety. This is the value of human life. So you see, the debate can happen in all of the three levels. And you need to prepare arguments for all of the three levels, if you can. Because this is how you will create a comparative analysis on different levels. You won't just have is it right, is it wrong, and so on. You will create a comparative analysis on different levels of debating, right? Always you can do it like that. Okay? So, to repeat what we did for the constructive part. Firstly, we said, we showed you what is the argument, right? It needs to have 4 points, sexy and important, right? Then, in order to make it comparative, in order to be able to engage, we discuss two different levels when we are trying to engage with our constructive material. Firstly, when we're building a single individual argument. When we're doing that, we said two things. Firstly, make it motion specific. Go through each and every important word from the motion and try to connect your statement directly to this motion. And secondly, try to think what will be the clash of this debate and make the argument directly on the clash, directly on the things that you will need to win in order to win the clash, right? Not just say hate speech is bad. Say in this specific case, hate speech is so bad that state needs to do something. Then secondly, when you have arguments and you're putting them together, right, there are two things you can do in order to create comparative analysis for the whole debate later. Firstly, try to think of the bigger issue and problem behind the debate. Don't just make arguments of the first thing that comes to your mind. Russia is going to attack parents, nobody's taking care of them. Try to think what is behind it. What is the bigger social issue that made us judges to set this motion? And secondly, especially if you have policy debate, try to create different levels of comparison, different levels of engagement. First level will be level of necessity. Do we need to do something? Is the situation really that bad? There is a necessity for the action. Secondly, are we justified to do that? Are we morally right to do that? Do we have a right to do that? And thirdly, do we have an efficient, not just efficient solution, but the most efficient solution? Okay? That would be it. I suggest, if this is okay with the organizers, that we do a short pause and then continue with a smaller part on rebuttal also. Okay? Would you agree with that? Could we do it like that?
But do we end the lecture now?
No, I would still want to. I would, if it's okay with you, I would still tell them something about rebuttal. But if you think it's better to go to the class, we can go to the.
We can do that. We can do
it's
that.
up to you guys.
Yeah.
What?
We have time.
Okay, then let's make a 5-minute pause and then we continue with the other part. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, come to me and I'll answer. how to compare and so on. I want to, just to avoid going into rebuttal too much, I just want to remind you that when you do rebuttal, when you respond to what the opposite team is saying, when you say that it was stupid, wrong, wrongly assumed, bad examples, whatever you say about the other team's argument, always conclude your rebuttal with, that is why, this is why. Tell me what have you done with your rebuttal. Tell me why your rebuttal was important. We have just shown you that their example is not correct, meaning that they cannot claim that that penalty is actually decreasing the crime rate. That means that they cannot claim efficiency anymore. That is why, dear judge, even if they show you that there is a necessity to do something, they cannot win this debate because they didn't show that their solution is a sufficient one. Okay? Always conclude that is why. Tell me why was your rebuttal important? What did you do with it in the debate? Okay? This is just what you keep in mind when you will do rebuttaling. Now, I want to conclude this just with listing a few things, few levels of possible comparison in the debate. Because in the end, the last speakers, the third speakers and the reply speakers in this format, the weak speakers in the PT format, they need to compare the arguments by necessity, right? It's not their job anymore to say this was wrong because this and this. It's not their job anymore to back up the argument, especially in WSDC in the reply speech. Their job is to do a summary and to do a comparison for a judge, to give reasons to a judge why the arguments that are still standing on one side are better and more important than arguments that are on the other side, okay? I will give you 8, I think, or 6, I don't know how many, options of what can you compare. It's not a science, it's something that you will probably all know, but it is important to have it listed somewhere in your mind so you can think of all these comparisons while you're trying to compare your argument. The first, of course, very expected one is you need to compare the numbers. How many people are affected by one argument, right? How many people are impacted? How many people feels the consequences of the action that we are talking about? My argument is more important because it will affect this and this number of people. So it's about the numbers. Always try to show, mine is bigger than yours. This is basically it, right? You need to show why your argument is affecting bigger amount of people. Maybe just a short note on public speaking. When you have big numbers when you're talking about, people are usually not aware of them. If I say the difference between 1 and 10 people, do you see the difference? Can you imagine the difference? You can, 1 versus 10. You see 1, you see 10, you can imagine. If I say 10 versus 100, you can still, right? If I say 100 versus 1,000, you can still. If I say 1,000 versus 10,000, it's already 1,000 versus 10,000. It's already problematic. If I say 1,000, 10,000, do you imagine what is the difference between these two crowds? Very hardly. What if I say 100,000, 200,000? Can you imagine the difference? It's basically the same for you. If I say 100,000 people, 200,000 people, it's basically the same for you. Do you agree with me, right? If I say 5 million versus 6 million, it's 1 million people different, but you do not see the difference in your mind, right? So that is why when you're talking about numbers, how many deaths something cost, always make it in relative terms. Because if you will say that Hitler killed 5 million people and Stalin 6 million, people will be, yeah, that's a lot. But it's 1 million different, right? Okay? So you need to make this difference somehow visible to people. People need to relate to it. So try to make, when you have big numbers, try to make it relative. Don't say 25% of population is probably homosexual. Say if there is 10 people here, 4 of them are probably homosexuals. Right? This will strike people much harder than just saying 25, because they will have no idea what does that mean in real life, right? If you say for Slovenia is, for example, a very small country, just 2 million people live in Slovenia, right? If I will try to say that something caused 6 million people dying, I will say that means that 3 Slovenia dead at the moment. Population of 3 whole Slovenia country is dead. So try to make it relative to the people so they will be able to imagine numbers. But first comparative is always number. But what if you're not winning the numbers? What if your arguments are not impacting a big amount of number? What then?
They're impacting a small amount in a large way.
Extent. Extent of harm, or I call it nature of harm. The nature of harm, the extent of harm. Meaning, if something harms you a bit more, like, you know, if 100,000 people will feel a bit of a pain in their stomach, and on the other hand, if 10 people die, even though the numbers are bigger here, you probably agree that the second argument is more impactful. Why? Because of the extent, nature of harm. I'll give you 3 possible comparisons under the nature of harm that you can use. Firstly is, does the harm happen to the empowered people or marginalized people? Empowered people or marginalized groups? If I say that this new tax policy will decrease the final yearly annual outcome of the population in the 1%, right, the 1 richest people, I don't know, for 10%. And if I say that for 10% of their own yearly income will also be affected all the others, where the harm is bigger? Probably for the one who has less, the 99, right? Because they are marginalized, because they have less power, because they are in a worse situation. If I'm talking that the same damage will happen to the white, privileged, well-educated, rich man versus the same damage happen to the poor women of color without any education, even if the number is the same, even the extent is exactly the same, the harm is much, much bigger on one hand, because it happened to a person who is marginalized, has less option in the society, has had much worse starting position. Okay, do you understand this, right? We don't need to go further. Okay. Second analysis under the nature of harm would be, is the harm that happened, did it happen because of the voluntary or involuntary risk? About the voluntary risk. Voluntary risk versus involuntary risk. Smoking kills, that is why nobody should be allowed to smoke. Why? Because it kills people. Big harm, it happens to everybody, or smoking is bad for your health, not necessarily kills. Big harm happens to everybody, but why you can still say that the harm is not that big? Why? Because? Because?
They chose.
Yeah, because the risk was totally voluntary. They were the one who decided they will smoke. Of course, you can then have all the arguments about passive smoking, about how you as a society were forced into it and so on. Okay, but you do understand the difference between voluntary and involuntary risk, right? I'll give you an example, which is funny because the state usually are doing it differently. How is the law in Finland regarding the seat belts? Do you need to have seat belts in your fasten in your cars?
Yes, you're mandatory.
Yes. Or just in the front or in the back row? Okay, in Slovenia it is the same, but this was like that. At the beginning, there was no law. Then the first law that was accepted was that you need to have it in the front rows. And then later, it was also in the back rows, which is, if you go with voluntary versus involuntary, it is totally stupid. Why? Because if you are sitting in the front and the accident happened and you like go out of the car, who is harmed? You. And I by myself took a risk that this may happen to me. What if you are sitting back and the accident happened and you go out? What happened? Who usually dies? The people in this is how I don't know, in Slovenia it was crazy statistics. 70 or 80% of the biggest damages that happen to people happen because the people sitting in the last row they flew to the first one. People sitting in the first one and they smashed them, and this is how the first one died, right? And who you're harming here? Just yourself? No, somebody else who did not choose that one that is risking to this harm. So you see, if the governments would follow voluntary versus involuntary risk, firstly, they would make it compulsory on the last row, and secondly, in the first. Because firstly, it's totally voluntary risk. Second, it's not just voluntary risk because you're harming the first one, right? But we will come to other options. Last one, under the nature. Reversible or irreversible? If the damage is irreversible, what? Is it bigger or less important? It's irreversible. It's much more important, right? Even if more people are affected, even if it happens to, even if it's totally involuntary, even if it happens to marginalized group, right? If it's irreversible, that is much more impactful argument, more important argument than argument about something that can totally be reversed back next day, right? If you have school uniforms 1 year, you can totally reverse that next year. Probably nobody will be harmed for life, right? If you have a death penalty and you kill an innocent person, that is irreversible, right? So always when you are comparing, try to compare it in such way. Okay, the next thing, very important. Likelihood or probability. Probability, this is now the third one. We had number, extent, now probability. Is it likely to happen? Is it likely to happen? Maybe it affects a big amount of people. Maybe it is irreversible. It affects marginalized group and it's totally involuntary. But if it's just a really small chance that this will happen, is it an important argument or not?
Yeah.
Not really, right? I'll give you an example. People who are against nuclear energy, not weapon, but energy, like electricity and so on, right? They always make one argument in the debate. We are not willing to risk that because if something goes wrong, if an accident happens, then the whole Europe goes up, right? This is how the arguments go, right? I'm not saying it's good, but this is how the arguments are used. If a big shit happen if a big problems happen in a nuclear thingy that's produced energy, if an explosion happens there, they make an argument that the whole Europe goes up, it will be totally different if it's really bad, right? And people are winning debates with such arguments, with the rhetorics of, we agree with you, but we are not willing to risk such big problem. Regardless of your benefit, we are not willing to risk this possibility. It is too big, we don't want to risk it. And what you say back, you compare it in a level of probability. You do comparison on probability. You say, we agree with you, it would affect big number, big extent, the really bad nature of harm, but because it's really not probable, this is why we think we are winning this argument, dear judge. So you can compare it on the level of probability. Another note for constructive arguments. When you're making arguments, never make arguments, this will happen for sure. Always make, it will be much more credible, make arguments, this is more likely to happen. If we have hate speech on Facebook, don't say, people will get radicalized and ISIS will get more support and everybody will hate refugees. Don't say that, because this is not true. Make an argument. People are more likely to radicalize. People are more likely to start hating refugees, yada, yada, yada. You understand? Okay. The next one is the land. Short-term, long-term analysis, right? Compare it, okay, maybe something good happen now, but on a long term, it will be total disaster. Short-term, long-term benefit. How long will it be going on? Maybe we have some negative things happening right now. On a long term, it will be much better. Okay? And the last thing, the fifth thing is, are there any is this harm or benefit, impact, exclusive impact of this thing that you are discussing? Is it exclusive? Is it exclusive? What do you mean by that? If you're saying that Finland should go out of European Union because if we go there, people will get more money, people will have higher. Let's say that this is an argument, right? I don't believe in European Union, so I wouldn't make this argument. Let's say that I don't believe it's necessarily beneficial for everyone. Let's say that you will make an argument that going out of the European Union would, on a long term, create economic growth for Finland and would give better salaries to majority of people. Maybe this is true. Maybe they convince you in that. But you can say this benefit of economic growth is not exclusive to the plan of going out. We give you 3 other options how we can achieve the same benefit. And because you did not present us that the thing that you are talking about, which are correct and good, but because these are not the exclusive benefits of your plan, of your proposal, this is why on comparative analysis, this goes to us, right? And now these are the 5 points with these 3 additional together, 8, how you can compare things. I sometimes say that comparing impact is like that. You know, I'm a philosopher, and they always say that I never make any equation or formula. Here it is. Impact is probability multiplied with extent of harm multiplied with the length of harm or benefit. This is how you make it, right? If you have a nuclear power plant going up, oh my God, the extent of harm is really bad. Oh my God, the length of harm is really bad. But probability is so low that the end impact is really not big, right? So this is how you help yourself when you do a holistic analysis. If you want to have big impact, you need the fact that thing is really, really likely to happen. Secondly, the extent and nature of harms, we analyze that, reversible, irreversible, to marginalize or empower people. Is it voluntary or involuntary? So you analyze the extent, and it needs to be happening for a long time. It's not just a short-term thing, and tomorrow it will all be over. And if you put all these things together, if you win the comparative on these 3 levels summed up together, this is how you can win a comparative analysis. But even if you don't do this holistic thing, which of course it doesn't end up totally, because maths doesn't end up totally, never, because it's just a made-up science. That is why I advise you to do it like that. You have 8 ideas how to compare arguments here. In the end of the debate, when you already know if you won or lost one or another argument, when you compare if these arguments are important, try to use one of these ideas. Don't go now when we will be in exercise, oh my God, I have 8 reasons why my argument is more important, and then go through all this. Use 1 or 2 to compare. Any questions? Okay, if not, we divide in how many? 3 groups? Okay, can you divide them? Okay, bye-bye.